Howdy again everyone. Now, let's say you bought a new Canon EOS R system camera with a smaller APS-C sized sensor like the new R7 or R10 or the even newer R50, and you're looking for a nice, small, inexpensive macro lens to go with it. On RF mount, Canon currently offer only larger full-frame macro lenses, but one option for you is to adapt their old EFS 60mm f2.8 USM. It's an older lens that Canon don't really make anymore, but it's always had a good reputation, and you can find it second-hand for about £350 or $400 US. I have reviewed this lens already, absolutely years ago. I remember shooting it all at my mother-in-law's house at the time because this copy of it actually belongs to her. Although its maximum aperture of f2.8 is hardly super bright, I was still delighted with its sharpness, portraits, and of course, stunning 1:1 life-size macro images. Thankfully, nowadays, things on my channel are a bit more standardized, so I thought I'd put it through its paces properly this time, and I'm going to be really challenging it by adapting it onto my 32.5 megapixel Canon EOS R7 for you. When it comes to build quality, well, I like the lens's design because its mid-range build quality is so typical of Canon's lens design of the time that it brings me back to the days when I was first learning photography in South Korea. Happy times. It's small and light at 337 grams. It's based on a metal lens mount, no weather sealing though, unfortunately. The rest of the lens body is made of nice quality plastic with a charming mottled finish. The focus system is mechanically connected with full-time manual focusing, so you can grab that rubberized focus ring anytime and change focus. The focus ring turns just under 90 degrees, just precise enough to get the job done, and on this older copy of the lens, the ring didn't turn especially smoothly anymore. It is nice to see the lens focusing internally though. The autofocus motor is very quiet and accurate, but not especially fast, and in my experience, my cameras kept throwing it off, focusing it the wrong way before the lens would go the right way and zero in on my subject. As you can see here, like most macro lenses, this thing suffers from some pretty serious focus breathing, which is an issue for video shooters particularly. The lens does not have image stabilization, it doesn't come with a hood, although one can be purchased separately, and its filter thread size is a small 52mm wide. Overall, it's a very simple lens with nice mid-range Canon build quality, really pleasant to use. Okay, image quality. As I mentioned already, I'll be challenging this thing by adapting it onto my 32.5 megapixel Canon EOS R7. In-camera corrections are turned on. At f2.8, image quality in the middle is just okay, and contrast a little weak, and we're losing a little resolution on the horizontal axis, especially there. The corner image quality is about the same. At f4, there's just a tiny bit more brightness in the corners, but back in the middle, we now see great sharpness and contrast. What's more, stop down to f5.6 to see razor sharpness in the middle. However, corner image quality remains just good. The lens stays this sharp down to about f11, where the effects of diffraction are softening the image a little, and at f16 or darker, the image becomes very soft. So, overall, this is a good performance on such a demanding camera sensor. I was hoping for a bit more sharpness and contrast at f2.8, but anyone shooting on a 24 megapixel camera should be more than satisfied. Okay, let's turn off those in-camera corrections and take a look at distortion and vignetting now. Macro lenses tend not to distort your images, and that's certainly the case here. We do see somewhat dark corners at f2.8 though. Stop down to f4 or f5.6 and they brighten up quickly. Now let's take a look at close-up image quality at the lens's minimum focus distance of 20 cm. Straight from f2.8 we see good enough contrast and very good sharpness. Stop down to f4 for a lovely little boost in sharpness and contrast though. f5.6 still looks great, but at f8 a little softness is emerging due to diffraction. f11 looks very weak, and f16 and particularly f22 are way too soft to use. That is just diffraction for you though, which is amplified at close distances and magnified by the camera's very high resolution sensor. Overall, it's a sharp macro lens. Let's see how it performs against bright lights now. It does a great job here, holding on to its contrast and displaying very little flaring at all. Nice. Let's take a look at the quality of this lens's bokeh. To me, it's looking just fine here, particularly when backgrounds are deeply out of focus. Not the smoothest I've ever seen, but good. On stopping down, the lens's 7-blade iris mechanism becomes very apparent though. And finally, related to bokeh comes longitudinal chromatic aberration. At f2.8, it's a little strong here. Stopped out at f4 and it's reduced but still visible, and at f5.6 it's virtually gone. Overall, well, the Canon EOS 60mm macro lens is beginning to show its age a little in terms of its build and optical quality. There are a number of disadvantages to using it. That maximum aperture of f2.8 isn't especially bright, it doesn't have stabilization, and also the wider angle of 60mm means you have to get fairly close to your subject to get the pictures you need, which could scare away small insects. Still though, the wider angle is a little easier and more versatile to work with, and it's still a pretty solid choice for an APS-C macro lens. It's still capable of great sharpness and gorgeous images along with good contrast. It mostly works very well. If you want to do some macro work and you can find a second-hand copy for a good price, then it still comes recommended. Thanks for watching everyone, and a huge thanks to everyone supporting me on Patreon right now. Patreon supporters get early access to my more interesting videos, as well as access to exclusive bonus content of all different kinds. And I love making exclusive Patreon videos, so check it out. Thanks for your support, and ciao for now.